KK, what made you return to the music scene after a few years that you had been out of business for a, I can say, well-deserved break?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that that, as you say, when the events unfolded, you know, and I exited the band, you know, I, in my mind, always thought that one day there would be an opportunity for me to return. And that's what I thought, but it didn't come to fruition as much as I myself tried. You know, it didn't happen. So in 2019, it just came together. I played a couple of short shows, and when I played with Ripper and Les Binks, you know, in November 2019, I decided that Christmas to lock myself away and see if there was an album there, you know, because I knew that because it had been confirmed by Glenn and Rob and Ian that they were happy and the door was permanently closed. So I had to move on my own. So I decided to write an album. And that's what I did. And then I felt confident to ask the guys to put a band together. We got a record label on board very, very quickly. And sadly, COVID got in the way. Otherwise, last year and this year, we would have been playing shows. But we waited a long time, but we said, no, we must release the record because, you know, I really wanted everyone to hear the new record.
Yeah, you are impatient for the people to listen to new KK's music. It's been so long. It's been so long. Yeah. You have Ripper on vocals. Does this mean that we'll see songs from Jugulator and Demolition on tour?
Yeah, for sure. We played a couple of songs at the show that we played in the UK with Ripper and Les Binks and Dave Ellefson. So we played a couple of songs there. So yeah, I think we'll play some songs that we never played, mate, from those albums. Yeah, for sure.
Looking back at these albums, do you feel they were underrated? They sounded modern at the time, and while people liked Rob Halford's modern approach to music, I don't think they accepted those records as Judas Priest records. Do you feel that underrated?
Yeah, I think that the theory is, Sakis, that, and I think it's true that usually when a band achieves so much success, usually there is one voice that's synonymous with that band, like Bruce Dickinson with Maiden, Freddie Mercury with Queen, you know, even Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones, Klaus Meine with the Scorpions. And obviously Rob, having done so many songs and so many records, his voice was very identifiable as the voice of Priest. So it doesn't matter how good Ripper was, you know, the tonal qualities were different. And so it was very hard to accept a new voice, a new guitar player, yes, new drummer, yes, bass player, yes, but the voice is so hard, you know. Even the mighty Van Halen, for myself, you know, I believe they had even more success with Sammy Hagar, but for me, Dave was always the voice of Van Halen because I remember so well, you know, the first albums, the early albums, and you know, Dave's voice is always synonymous with Van Halen for me.
Mm-hmm. I totally get it. Sermons of the Sinner features a lot of parts that could have easily fit a Judas Priest album in the 80s, such as Brothers of the Road or Wild and Free. Are these unused Judas Priest riffs that we have in there? Were they written in the 80s or the 90s, or it's KK's playing, which is Judas Priest?
I think 95% is new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I have like a collection of guitar archive ideas, some with vocals, because I do put vocals down as well. So there's a couple of older ideas, and they may have been rejected from the Judas Priest, you know, when I presented them, because obviously I was writing with Glenn and Rob, and so it was a collaboration, which often meant that some things were as a compromise. But obviously with this, I had the total freedom, you know, and what I liked was accepted, which is really, really good. And that's a new territory for me.
You discussed with yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And made decisions together. Collaborative effort.
Exactly. So it was quite easy because I didn't have to consult with anyone else. It made it very easy and quick to put the album together.
Yeah. Doing a sequel to the Sentinel 37 years after the original is sure to raise lots of questions. How do you deal with that?
It had to be done. It had to be done.
Was it an idea that you had while in Judas Priest?
No.
Or was just you know, that you decided to do a sequel to the Sentinel?
Actually, a friend of mine who is a journalist, you know, when I talked to him about, you know, doing KK's Priest, he actually suggested you should do a song, Return of the Sentinel. And that was very, very early on. But I kept coming back to this idea. And then I started to think, you know, because it's such a part of me, you know, that I didn't want to leave. I wanted to take some of the past into the future with me, because it was going to happen anyway, because of the way I write and how I sound is going to be reminiscent of the past. So it's befitting to be in the present and the future. And I liked that, you know, I liked that association. And because there's so many sentiments and emotions that built up and stored up in me for over the past decade, that the whole album is a release of a lot of things, awareness, you know, I say, and so it all came together in the album, and every song has a meaning to me, you know, and also there's rejoicement, there's messages, there's awareness, there's the whole thing, and I'm happy to talk about it, you know, as and when these things are asked of me, you know. So it's a great story to tell about the whole album, you know. I mean, awareness about, you know, I mean, this very special music of ours that we've all grown older together with over so many decades. Obviously, there's lots of new fans, and that's fantastic as well. But lots of us have been there, you know, for all of our lives. And so this record is very, very important to me as a fan as well, you know, and lots of the fans are musicians. So when we get together, you know, listening to the album, or when we play together live, I think we've got lots of special moments to share together, you know, that we can be very, very proud and happy, you know, because I keep mentioning my age. I don't like to, but like I'm 70 this year, so I want us to go out with and have fun, you know, and just enjoy.
Yeah. Can you tell me how did the idea of the name KK Priest came up?
Well,
it's obvious. Okay, it's obvious.
It's because, you know, what happened was I heard what the fans are saying, you know, but I think a lot of fans will understand that I have been a priest since 1968. I've wanted to be a priest since 98. I have been. I've traversed the road of the evolution of music as we know it today. We went from blues when I was young to progressive blues, you know, to rock, to hard rock, to heavy metal. You know, I've been on that journey. So I believe that I have a right, you know, to continue as a priest, because some of the guys in Priest now, I haven't met them and they're playing my songs, and, you know, which is fine. But if they have a right to be a priest, then I have
You
a
also
right
have that
to be
right.
a priest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've earned it.
yeah.
You've earned it for the years.
And so, and I can't start something absolutely new. I can't sound like a new guitar player. I can't write like a new guitar player. So everything I do is going to be reminiscent of the past to the fans, you know. So that's what I decided, that, you know, and
Okay.
I think it's absolutely going to be absolutely fine. I really do. And the face of KK's Priest and the being, that will evolve, and that will be on the journey with us, you know, because he does exist. And there's so much yet to come, Sakis. There's so much yet to come. There's more videos, more songs coming your way. So, and there's more albums to come also.
I remember that Reaper in 2016 received a phone call from Jane Andrews saying that he was banned from using any priest-related artwork in his live shows. That was an instruction given to him by Jane Andrews. Do you think that she might make the same claim in your shows?
Yeah, their lawyers sent a letter to my record company threatening to making threats of legal action if I went forward with KK's Priest. So it's already happened.
It has already happened.
You're the first one that I've told about that.
I am not surprised, to tell you the truth. I think that you can't say any more about this because your lawyers handle this.
Yeah, for the moment, nothing happened. I think they made the threat, but decided not to follow through with the threat. But they made the threat to try to stop me making the band.
Yeah, but you made it.
I made it.
But let's see what happens when you play Judas Priest songs in your live shows, because
yeah, they're going to sound fantastic.
and hope we can see them. And we can see you live in Greece. For
absolutely.
That. The overall behind-the-scenes mechanism in Judas Priest was Jane Andrews, and the way she handled all the affairs of the band, always supporting Glenn Tipton and not the entire band. Why did you talk this thing over with Rob and Ian? And most importantly, why didn't you do something as a founding member of the band?
Yeah, Ian and Rob were very placid. They just wanted, I didn't get the support from them. They felt exactly the same. And so did Scott. And we often spoke about it many, many, many times, you know, and we weren't happy. But Ian and Rob, they are a lot more placid than me, even. So I didn't have any backup from anyone. You know, Scott wasn't a full band member, so he didn't have a voice. Rob had his own manager, and his, you know, because in 2010 when I quit, Rob did a world tour with his band, playing Priest songs, and he released 2 studio albums. He had his mind on other things, and Ian was just, not being a songwriter, never really had much of a voice in the band, because it's usually songwriters that have a strength of say. It's very, there's definitely a pecking order, but like I say, I was on the losing end.
I'm surprised that Ian didn't support you, as you have been friends for a long time. When it came to a clash between you and the band, he didn't back you up then, which was really surprising to my eyes.
They don't have a voice. Rob and Ian, I believe, how can they possibly not accept me back into the band? Rob left the band for 14 years, and I was instrumental in him being back in the band. As great as I thought Ripper obviously was, I felt for the benefit of the fans, they wanted, you know, the voice of the band. And I'm sure Ripper understands that, absolutely, at the time. But Rob formed 3 bands, not 1, but not 2, but 3, you know, left for 14 years. Glenn left for 6 years to do 2 albums with Cozy and John Entwistle. And Ian never was a part of the songwriting. Ian is still on stage now playing my songs, but he won't accept me back into the band for me to play them, you know, when Glenn retired. And even now they don't have a second guitar player, because Andy has said that he will step down if I were to come back. And they've declared that he is just a touring guitarist, not a part of the band. So
I would like to ask you something. Reading your autobiography, it felt astonishing to me, the fact that you made up your mind, you had made up your mind to leave Judas Priest back in 1991. There were even thoughts back in 1978, but the final decision was made in 2011. I guess that it has to do with your non-confrontational character, I could say. But a long time for someone to feel unhappy and stay at a band. How do you comment on that?
Well, myself and Glenn were a formidable team, and we did well. And I respect Glenn's work ethic, you know, but we were never friends, you know, and there was just always that kind of distance between us, really. I think we both knew it. You know, we were different. We come from different backgrounds, but we made it work. And like I say, you know, but we were never friends. We didn't have a particular. We used to do things a lot together, but we were just like an old married couple. We just kind of made it work, I think.
But I think that being so different made you such a remarkable guitar duo. Perhaps this difference that you have in all aspects made you this so unique.
Yeah, I think so. But you know, I should have played more guitar on the albums and stuff like that. But I'm doing everything now that I should have done it.
You compensate for the old times.
Yeah, I never it was hard to enjoy the shows because Glenn used to drink and stuff and party. And okay, it's rock and roll, but it was really not. The fans never really knew the difference because we put on a really good show, but lots of times musically it was precarious, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, and you have stated that Judas Priest live performances of 2010 and 2011 suffered a lot, especially due to Glenn's sloppy playing. Why again didn't you talk this thing over with the band? Man, we have problem, I guess, that all the other people in the band.
Yeah, because if somebody wants to have some beers before they go on stage and they want to drink continually on stage, it's just considered rock and roll, and you don't really feel as though you have license to tell people to stop doing it. You know, it's people have been doing it for years, you know, and it is you either endure it or you have to leave, and I left.
Yeah, but if this affects the overall, because it affects you, it affects Rob, it affects
because we felt insecure.
Mm-hmm.
I felt insecure when Ripper was in the band. We all felt insecure, you know, because you know it's just like if you get in a car and somebody's been drinking, you don't feel secure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You would rather that they didn't, because then if something happens and you know, then it's just one of those things. But I'm going to end up being the bad guy. Obviously, Glenn, unfortunately, now is obviously ill, but he did it his way, you know, and I did it my way.
Yeah.
But somebody had to throw the towel in and walk out, and it was me.
Mm-hmm.
Because enough was enough.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do that final farewell tour after that wonderful career and have to endure that every night. I didn't want to do it. I spoke to Glenn a couple of times about it, and he just shunned it off as though I shouldn't be saying it because it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Many people,
But it was that, plus they were trying to make me do a write for an EP, which was ridiculous, to support the farewell tour. And plus Rob was doing all of these things with his band, you know, which was ridiculous. In fact, a couple of weeks after I walked out, Rob and his manager wrote me a letter. They wanted me to form a band with Rob and some other musicians.
And which other musicians?
Well, Jeff Loomis was one. I can't remember the other names, but I've got the email.
And create a new project with you and Rob and Jeff Loomis.
Yeah.
And what happened?
I just ignored it. See, the world doesn't know that.
Yeah, it's the first time I hear something like this.
Yeah, nobody knows that. I think I've only ever said that to you and one other journalist just because it comes up.
Yeah, and what do you think? What do you think made Rob say that he wants to form a new band with you? Was that because he felt insecure too with Glenn in the band?
You have to ask him. No one asks them questions.
Yeah. Okay.
No journalist asks the other guys questions. I mean, for example, they tell the world I retired.
Yeah.
But why don't they?
You should know that I ask every kind of question that I have in mind, and this is well earned by all these 26 years I'm doing interviews. So I try to be honest and polite, and I always ask things that I have in mind as a fan. And the questions I would really like as a fan to be solved, everything that has to be solved. So many people do not realize that you were the one who pushed forward the leather image that is so strongly associated with heavy metal. Are there any aspects of your time with Judas Priest that may have passed unnoticed by the fans?
Yeah, well, yeah, wearing the leather, that was me that instigated that whole thing, the whole thing. You know, Rob always took credit for being the leather guy, but it wasn't. It was me, and you could see live performances in '77 in Japan with me in leather and studs. But I encouraged Rob to come with me to London to have some leather clothes made. And I was just hoping that the rest of the guys would fall in line with that, and they did, so it worked really, really well. Because sometimes you get guys in bands, they don't do anything unless it's their idea, you know. So you have to manipulate things carefully, you know. Psychology.
You were one of the very few who shared a rave opinion about Nostradamus. Do you think that this album has aged well in time? And from your perspective, what should be back then the next logical step for Judas Priest? I myself like Nostradamus album very much, I have to say.
Yeah, I like the album a lot because, well, there's so much good music on there, you know, and Rob's fantastic on there. It really is a showcase, you know, for... Yeah, I'm so glad that we made the album. I think it will, in time, you know, it certainly will. People will listen to it again in time, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, you know. But for now, obviously, even with KK's Priest, you know, I go back to, I want to give people what the vast majority really want and like from Judas Priest, you know, and I like it too, you know. On this album, Sermons of the Sinner, some of it's darker and more meaningful, but there's a good cross section there, I think, which the fans will like. I mean, there's a modern day version of Breaking the Law, I think, with Wild and Free, you know.
More speedy version of Breaking the Law.
Raise Your Fists really to me is another Living After Midnight type of thing, you know.
And of course, Brothers on the Road is the you've got another thing coming.
Another thing coming, exactly. It's like that's what it reminds me of. Heading Out to the Highway, another thing coming. It also reminds me a little bit of the Steppenwolf song, which is called, you know, kind of a Born to Be Wild type of thing, you know, that type of atmosphere, you know. So I like that too, because I like nostalgia. I love elements of things that go back, you know, to, you know, like, who knows?
Speaking about
the Kinks. You really got me, the Kinks in 1965. When I first heard that, I'm thinking, this is the only song I've ever heard that I actually like. And I was like 14 at the time, because there wasn't any music around for us at the time. You know, and they were supposed to be a pop band. I'm thinking, how can they be a pop band? I like this song. They can't be a pop band if I like this song. And I couldn't stop playing it. It was just riff orientated. And that was one of the very, very beginnings of heavy metal.
Do you have any regrets about being a professional musician? I mean, you openly wrote that your relationships were not the best one could have due to the fact that you were touring heavily. Has this changed in the last 10 years since your official departure from Priest? Did you find what you were looking for in this aspect of your life?
No. No. But when I quit Priest, I went straight into a production job with a band called Violent Storm. So I rearranged all of their songs, and which is a good album actually. So I went straight into doing that. But I do have a wife, and and it looks exactly like a flying V, I'm afraid. I mean, the guitar is my wife. So, you know, I've suffered. I've become subservient to what lots of my girlfriend used to call a piece of wood. They used to say, you think more of that piece of wood than you think of me. And I'm not too sure if they're wrong about that. You're going to get into trouble here. Because I spent more time
with your flying.
They would often say, bless them, some of them, not all of them, you spend more time with that between your legs than you do with me. So I'm not going to go there, guys. But they had a point. They would come into my room, and I've been there like for 5 hours, you know, doing this, and they would come in thinking, this guy's crazy. This guy's crazy. He already has a wife. That's what they used to say.
Do you think that you will ever play with Judas Priest for one last time?
They've been saying no, no, no for so long now that I can't see it ever happening. And there's no reason why it should now, because I don't think that they deserve me now. So that's all there is to it, you know. It is what it is. It's like, you know, if you say no to a woman for 10 years, you don't deserve to have a back. You know, you can't. People have to erase you. It's like a funeral. It's like the burial. You know, I quit, which was like the death, but like the interim period, you always think that person's going to come back to life. You know, you can't really accept the fact that it's happened, but it's not until the actual burial that you can put things to rest and you move on with your life. When that happens, there's no going back.
AC/DC, which is a band around your peers, let's say, have released a great studio album. Do you think, I always laugh with this excerpt from your book, where you say that Malcolm and Angus Young, they drank only tea and no alcohol at all. So do you think there will ever be a time that we'll see bands like AC/DC or Judas Priest in the future?
You mean new bands?
Yeah.
Well, this is the whole thing that I'm hoping with like Sermons of the Sinner, that it will, you know, help people. Like it says in the lyrics, you know, that the Sermons of the Sinner, they can help us rise again, because time is running out for us, you know, and this is talking about our genre of music, you know, and metal is, I know it and I like it, you know. My favorite bands, I mean, Saxon, you know, Scorpions, UFO, and the list goes on and on and on, you know. Hopefully we can sustain that, and we already have a new version of Led Zeppelin in Greta Van Fleet. I mean, because they're just young guys, they're playing new material. Yes, there's a synergy, a sound like that, but this is good. So we need to see a new young Deep Purple, or a new young Judas Priest, or a new young Iron Maiden, or a new young Black Sabbath. That would be great, you know, because we sort of knew AC/DC and Airborne in a way, you know. That's positive, that's good, you know. And so hopefully things like that will start to happen. So if Sermons of the Sinner and people, you know, does have a good effect on people, then hopefully we can help that to, and that's what we really, really do need, you know. Look at the young blood in this band, you know. We have Sean on drums, we have AJ on guitar, you know, they're more than half my age. So young blood, you know, is what we need.
Is KK's Priest the new old priest or the old new priest?
That's a good question. Because I say to Ripper, are we an old new band or a new old band or somewhere in between? So
you haven't decided yet.
Sorry?
You haven't decided yet.
No, it will be what it will be. The album is exactly how I envisaged it to be. And I'm already very excited about more songs on the new album, the next album. So it will be a continuation of everything I am and everything I've done and everything that I can do, you know, and it will be what it will be.
And I'm very glad that I see you so passionate and emotional about your new music, which means that you have more and more to give us in the future, which is it's great. It's really great.
Right now, I couldn't be happier because I'm actually, like, in all honesty, a caged animal that's been let out into the jungles, you know. And there's food over there, there's girls over there, there's fresh water over there, and you know, I don't have to rely on people passing things through the cage.
You can get whatever you want.
To sustain me, I can go out and get it myself.
Yeah.
And it's there.
Yeah, fantastic. So what should we expect from the future?
Kick-ass live performances, because KK's Priest is going to deliver everything, because I'm not going to go on the stage and be different to what you ever know me. I have to have a good band around me and put on a great show.
Will someone be like the Priest on the cover? Is Ripper going to be dressed like that in the beginning of the show?
All these are secrets. You have to buy a ticket and come and see the show, because there's nothing there. Because I like, in all honesty, when I go and see a band, I don't watch them on YouTube. I just want to, because the best part of the show is the anticipation.
Yeah.
When the support bands have gone and you've got the headline act coming on, and you don't know what you don't know what, and the excitement is wonderful, and that's the greatest part about being a fan. You know, what will I wear? What will I look like? What will the first song be? You know, what's the stage set going to look like? You know, and it's all of that anticipation you know, that I guess even if you do watch it on YouTube, it's still, when you're there and you've got all the fans around you, all the adrenaline, and the, you know, and the curtain goes up, it's magical. And so looking forward to.
Thank you very much for this. Thank you very much for this conversation. It's been a pleasure. You've been one of my teenage idols, and with your music, with your songs, it's the soundtrack of my life. You've built the soundtrack of my life with your songs, and it was a pleasure to speak with you about all these things and solve all my questions and answer all my questions for that.
It's a pleasure, Sakis, and I desperately want to come back to your wonderful country. We never played enough shows there, but this time we will.
We'll make sure this happens.
For sure.
Thank you very much.